The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit. Okay. For I reckon that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. Go on. Next verse. For the earnest expectation of the creature waited for the manifestation of the sons of God. Go on. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by the reason of him who had subjected the same in hope. Come on, go on. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of what? Who is going to liberate nature? God or children of God? Talk to me. Don't be afraid. If you fail, I will tell you, say you fail. Just don't worry. Let's go back to where we started reading. Back up 2 verses. I want to bring out something for you. Verse 19, 18 also. Oh, this guy is too slow for my liking. Okay, let's go back. Verse 18. For I consider that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creation eagerly awaits the revealing of the sons. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, I'm reading from New King James, but because of him who subjected it in hope. How many of you have read this place and really understood? Who subjected creation to futility? After man failed, after man fell in the garden, let me ask you the question. What was the fault of mango trees? What was the fault of lions? What was the fault of oranges? That they are not producing the way they should produce. Why is creation subjected to bondage? Who subjected them to bondage? Sorry? Who subjected them to bondage? I'm not a bad teacher now. Don't be afraid. And I don't have cane. I'm trying to teach you something. Okay. Don't worry. Who sinned in the garden? Just a man, right? So the mango trees and vegetables and all that vegetation did not sin. So why were they subjected to bondage? Why were they corrupted? Who subjected them there? Why? How did man subject them there? Man didn't say anything to mango. Don't lie on man now. This is where Adam carry no reach you. They put another one on top. Okay. So this is what happened. The way God created, this is one of the principles. If you do not submit yourself to the rulership, he says, what did you say about the centurion? I'm a man under, I say to this he goes, and to this one come and he comes. Therefore speak the word. Now, if I have given you an authority to rule over a people or a thing, if you don't submit yourself to me, then those things will rebel against you. Do you understand what I'm saying? You see, when you see El Nino, flood, thunder, all these things causing destruction, it is nature revolting against man. It is not from God. It's not God causing them to fight us. It is our rebellion against the man who put us in charge. Once we exercise our right, our free will, our freedom of thought, and ability to do whatever it is, and our opportunity, once we exercise it against the man who gave them to us, then we do not have legitimacy over the rulership of creation. Do you understand? You lose control. Yoruba people used to say a particular proverb when a person is disobedient. They said, you better put your act together because small legs still there for back. I don't know if you heard that. In other words, the younger ones are watching. And do you know that sometimes, no, I know a pastor, and I'm not going to mention names. I know a pastor whose mother slapped her mother-in-law. She was under pressure and the woman was just was on her case and there was violence and something happened. I think whether this woman slapped her, she slapped the woman in this country. And the pastor did not know. From childhood to adulthood, they didn't know. The wife had never heard the story before. And now the mother was in the pastor's house. Some things happened. There was argument and blah, 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 blah. And I think the mama said some things the wife didn't like. And the pastor's wife slapped the mother-in-law. And the pastor was going to kill her. Was going to divorce. He was going to this thing. And the mama called him and said, son, come. Called her into the room. He said, don't say one bad word to your wife. Let me tell you a story when you are not yet born. This happened, this happened, this happened, and we engaged into agreement similar to this. And I struck my mother-in-law. And he said, your son's wife will smite you. Your wife was not born. Your wife didn't know anything. She has smite me today. Today, this thing ends in this family. He called. He said, "Mama, so and so, come. Your wife, your children's wife, and their husband will honor you. They will bless you. They will respect you. They will take care of you. Nobody will smite you. Nobody will say bad word to you. They will respect. This woman reversed everything and blessed this person." I'm tempted to almost mention the person because you will know, all of you will know the person. He's a very prominent preacher. If I mention the name, all of you will know him. The woman reversed this. He said, "My son, don't say anything. You are not divorcing her. You are not talking to your wife. Don't say one negative word, because she did not know she's fulfilling prophecy." So when you do not show yourself responsible for the authority that is given to you, the people or the events or the creation over which your authority was given to you will rebel against you. So the authority, so all of the nature that you find, you know, whether the snow, all of the things that is causing destruction, typhoon, tornado, fighting and cursing, is a result of our rebellion against God, and nature is rebelling against us. Do you understand that? So when man fell, the trees and creation did not rebel against God. But now that man has fallen and is now has subjected himself to sin and vanity, what God now did was to subject all creation to vanity. So they can no longer produce their best. They can't yield all their best. Because God was waiting for the day the sons of God will realize who they are. And once they understand who they are, they will deliver creation. So all that God is saying is that creation has been subjected to bondage. Go over that passage again, bring it out. In the place where we just read. Look, the creation, all of creation, it says, let's see. For I consider that the suffering of this present time are not worthy, from verse 18, to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of creation, what are they doing? What is creation doing? Eagerly waiting. Not waiting for Jesus to come back. Because I know, for Jesus we are waiting. You are waiting for Jesus, right? Before he comes, do something with your life. You know what I'm talking about. Recently, sometimes earlier this year or last year, people just start circulating 32 things you do not know about rapture. There's 32 secrets and revelation about rapture. Somebody said, he said, "Do you see that thing about rapture?" I said, "We've been talking about it for 35 years. He said, "Before I come quickly." If after 35 years or 40 years or 2,000 years he hasn't come, he said that quickly does not mean the quickly you thought he meant. And then the person asked me, "Okay, so you don't believe in rapture?" I said, "Before you were born, that thing they've been preaching that thing. And now you have grown now. You have not done anything with your life, waiting for rapture. And you are not rapturing. Are you not going to do something with your life?" I said, "While you are waiting for the coming of Jesus Christ, why not do something with your life now? Begin to exercise your authority." And you know, we had a case like this, 1983, I mean 87 or so, 86 or 87. There was this man, we went for a retreat, and the last message was, "Behold, he cometh. Behold, he cometh." And when we go back home, the sister was telling the wife, behold, the brother was telling the wife, behold, he cometh. The rain began to fall. It was Easter retreat. After the rain began to fall, he said, brother, let's go to farm now. Let's go and do so far. He said, you didn't hear that message, behold. See, my wife knows the family I'm talking about. I'm not telling you a story. He said, behold, he cometh. Then rain was increasing. See, the woman came to me. He said, please, sir, talk to my husband. My husband is saying, behold, he cometh. Before he cometh, let us go and plant corn. He said, if we plant corn and he meet us plucking corn and he cometh, we leave the corn. He said, if we are roasting the corn, if we are cooking the corn and eating it, and he cometh, we leave the corn. But before he cometh, let us go and do something with our lives. The endless expectation of creation is not waiting for behold he cometh. They are waiting for sons of God to manifest. They are waiting for sons of God to what? Manifest. See, I'm telling you that even mangoes, even trees, banana. You know, the last house we lived in Mina before we came. One day, the landlord came into the compound. We plucked some, we cut off some banana, and we sent some to him. He said, Pastor, where do you get that from? He said, we plucked gamale, we kill all the bananas. I said, once we entered, the compound knew that the sons of God were here. And everything that died just resurrected. We planted pear. He started producing pear, 2 trees of avocado pear in the same compound in Niger State. Everything is just stunned. In the current place where we live, we have a mango in our compound. When we saw it was so dry when we came in, it wasn't healthy. Then all of a sudden, we entered. You see, because those who know who they are had entered, that mango started producing in season and out of season. There was no time you came to our compound, you will not find mango on the tree. Then the landlord made a mistake. Everybody say he made a mistake. Sometime last year, he now sent a message to us, he would like us to leave. Instantly, that mango became sick. Now, if you come to my compound, you will know what I'm talking about. It became sick. And so, the neighbors, some other people, they say, oh, they had to pour chemical and other thing. I told my wife, I said, the landlord just killed this mango. I said, how do you talk the redemptive people who have liberated the things that have been planted here? Come into my compound and see moringa and some little vegetables and what do you call it, bitter leaf. We just put there carelessly and see how greenish, how beautiful they are, all of them. As soon as they, and guess what? As soon as the landlord called me and apologized and said, let's continue as before, the mango started picking up. Creation is not waiting for the coming of Jesus. They are not waiting for he cometh. They are waiting for sons of God to manifest, to use their authority. Let me tell you the final thing. In Guatemala, I have a video, and you can go and Google it by George Otis, Revival in Guatemala. A revival came to a community because the people said, we cannot remain here with unbelievers. They either leave the town for us because we are to take over. And you know what? This whole community, 99.9% of the people were all born again. And all the prisons were closed down. No single prisoner anymore. And those who didn't want to get born again left the town. Guess what? All of the crops, beans, cabbages, carrot that were one-time fruit, that produces only once, started producing twice a year. Your George tested one carrot. They pull it out, it's as big as his hand, one carrot. Because creation has been liberated. You are stepping out of this place, go and liberate creation. Where businesses are failing, go and speak life to them. Where there are dead bodies around you, begin to raise them to life. Where sicknesses are ravaging the church and your neighbors, begin to bring life to them. As you step out of this place today, go and manifest the kingdom. Go and prosper. Go and liberate creation. If you have some farms, you have some, maybe animal husbandry, you do animal husbandry, you have poultry, you have whatever it is. Wherever